Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Seeing Blind. Thank you all so much for joining me for another evening of Blind Community Chat. So, usually in the past, we've been sticking with some blind parenting topics, but today we're going to step outside that box just a bit and address a little bit of a wider issue, and that is, hang on just a second, let me pause this. Okay. Um, we're going to address hobbies today and discuss a little bit of what extracurricular activities, recreational things, what can we do as blind or visually impaired individuals to help fulfill that creative need and to fulfill that exploratory of our environment and all that kind of jazz. So today, guys, I have a special guest with me, and I'm going to let him introduce himself, what his work is, and what his hobbies are, and dive right into tonight's discussion. So, Corey, tell us about yourself.
All right. Hello. And Cindy, thank you so much for having me on. This is such a pleasure. Hello. And to the rest of you, hi, everybody. My name is Corey Walker. Um, I'm a transition counselor, which means I work with youth and young adults from the ages about 16 to 25 who are blind and visually impaired on developing skills that they need for independent living and life fulfillment. So, job training, socialization, just providing a place to work on that traveling and mobility skills and collaborating with each other. And so we used to do live workshops before COVID hit, and then COVID hit, and we got to really sharpen our Zoom skills. So
Right.
yeah, and then so do that, and I also work with a up and coming nonprofit called Disability Solutions International that
Oh,
works
yeah.
on works with connecting people like individuals with disabilities into community and working on connecting communities of people who have disabilities like with either with each other or with other with or with other people who are other working on like where we work with agencies who work with people who have disabilities and provide like consultation, like curriculum consultation, and just and feedback, and like or how we're connecting them with other people or connecting them with other agencies that might
Yeah.
have a solution to the problem that they're having, and we do that in the U.S. and abroad too. So we have like we have groups of people meeting from abroad, like in Africa and the Middle East, and we connect with
Wow.
other groups. Oh yeah, it's awesome. And then we also have mentorship groups and some recreation groups that we're working on developing in the U.S. And it's yeah, that's really awesome. And I'm also part of a volunteer cross country and sea kayak guide with Environmental Traveling Companions in the San Francisco Bay Area. We work with um, getting people who might not otherwise uh, get to experience the joy of the outdoors and to doing outdoorsy activities like kayaking out to Angel Island in the San Francisco Bay Area or Tomales Bay, and then cross country skiing in Bear Valley. And mostly we work with groups that have of people who have disabilities and all kinds of disabilities like visual impairment, deaf, hard of hearing, like bleeding disorders,
Wow.
groups developmental disabilities, all kinds. But then we also work with people who um, I also have a bit of a harder time describing this group, but basically it's
Just
like at risk
connecting
youth.
like different groups of people
Yeah,
that are disabled and making those
right.
meaningful connections in a way that benefits everybody.
Definitely. And it's so cool
Awesome.
because it's we do like ETC. It's like we do trips, with people, not for people. So I was actually a
Oh,
participant
cool.
on the ETC trip when I was first time when I was 12, and then a couple more times in their whitewater rafting program. When I was about 16 and 18, and like they have the like you've got all these like blind kids like helping to haul food up the big hill, and like kayaking through the
Nice.
Bay Area, and helping to
Nice.
cook and prep food and break down food, and going on these hikes around the island, or walks
Wow.
around the forest, and it's skiing and doing snowball fights, and it's just really awesome stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I
Mm-hmm.
can't wait to dive into a little bit of that. So,
Mm-hmm.
real quick, I want to welcome all those that are in the live chat and watching with us tonight live. We've got several people in. So, I want to say hi to Blind Toes, Paul Soup for the Soul. Y'all, hi. And I know there's a lot of other people that are watching here in the number. So, make sure you all head over to that chat box. Say hello to myself and Corey. Ask us any questions. And tonight's question of the evening is tell us what are your favorite hobbies? What do you like to do for recreation to help fulfill that creative need, desire in your heart and to just pass the time. So let us know in the comment section and share some ideas, share our resources on how to learn such a hobby or anything like that. Let's kind of make those connections this evening. So let's see. And if you all are not familiar with Blind Toes, oh my gosh, he and I are going to go. I'm going to plug this real quick. We're going to go live on Wednesday on his channel at noon Eastern time. And he likes to try crazy, crazy, hot, spicy foods. And Blind Toes, tell me, is that like trying interesting food? Is that your hobby? Because wow, dude. I mean, like, daggone. I mean, and Corey, I have seen him. I mean, like his face is like red, beet red, and he is, and it's like, if and I'm blind. Like God, if I could tell someone's face is red, I mean, like you might as well call a damn fire engine. Okay, I mean,
It's a
so
beacon, right? Yeah.
yes, and so
Yeah.
anyway, I laugh my butt off, and so he's asked me to do so, and I'm like, nope, sorry, I have to draw the line with my hobbies right there. I don't like spicy food, so I will be eating a normal lunch, and I can't wait to tell y'all what
Nice.
I'll be cooking with you guys and making Wednesday at noon on Blind Toes' channel. So I will see y'all there as well. But so let's get into it. All right, I want to know first, one of the big issues that I feel like a lot of people in the community have is overcoming the fear, overcoming any anxiety, especially because I know, Corey, a lot of what you do is outdoor things. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where I feel like a lot of people in our community have a lot of fears and issues with because
Mm-hmm.
exploring the great outdoors, that's a huge leap from going outside of your box, your environment, your safe area, safe zone. I mean, we can all walk around in our houses pitch black,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Oh, yeah.
you get outside, different story, and there's a lot of fear. So give us what are some of your tips and tricks and how do you overcome those anxieties and fears to have to to get your desire bigger than your fear to
Mm.
explore.
Do it with a group. All the outdoorsy,
Mm,
or like or even just a person. And I've had the pleasure of doing both. So as with groups, especially if you're blind or visually impaired, find a group that does recreation with people who are blind or visually impaired, and see if you can do stuff with them. So I was part of the youth program at the Braille Institute in California growing up, and we did outdoor recreation there. There are a couple blind camps for kids and adults in California and around the state. Actually, one of the funnest ones I went to was in Colorado. We did like downhill
mm-hmm.
skiing, cross country skiing, rock climbing, like tubing, just all kinds of fun stuff. And you find a group to do that stuff with, and there'll be uh, like kind of, I guess, accommodation setup, or you'll kind of have like inbuilt assistance, especially for the first time. And what's more is you'll have other people who are blind, visually impaired doing it with you, so you're not the only person. And like the things that you might be struggling with, or things that, like, one, they've already accounted for, and two, the other people are there, doing the same thing. So it's not you're not the only one. Might be wanting
Right.
a guide, or right, and then you're not the only one, like, um, normalization becomes a good thing, where it's normal for everybody walking around with canes, or a couple
Oh, I
people have
see.
guide
Yeah.
dogs, and yeah, and then but if you don't, have ready access to a group to do that with, um, just find people to do that with. My family loves to go camping, and so that's like
Uh-huh.
our family time together. Is we go camping, and so
Uh-huh.
there's no reason that in any of their minds why I couldn't go camping with them. And when I was 14, my grandpa and I started doing backpacking trips about every year, and we did a 10-day trip once, hiking around the Sierra Nevada mountains on the kind of, I think, the border,
Wow.
yeah, California and the U.S. And
Wow.
there's like, and yeah, it was awesome. And then
That's
so
so you gained a so I forgot to totally ask you about your visual impairment, Corey, but before we touch on
Norris.
that, I want to
Mhm.
just clarify. So really, so I totally agree with you. I think the biggest tip to help people get over those initial fears, anxieties of stepping out your front door, trying something new, you don't have to like shoot straight for whitewater rafting right out of the bat, right?
No, no.
Start small, y'all. Keep
Uh-huh.
it realistic and just take small steps. But
Yeah.
doing it with a group, and really, I think that is an excellent tip, Corey, because
Thanks.
sometimes I think having right out of the gate, someone just there to help share any advice and to help you get that
Mhm.
confidence that you need so that you are safe and so that you are in control, you know what to expect and you know how to plan and prep and prepare, for that
Mhm.
outing or for that event. And in doing that, you learn from other people. And so I think that is an excellent tip when it comes to outdoor recreational things and stuff like that. So real quick, Corey, tell us what is your visual impairment? What's your acuity and what how much do you see when that allows you still to be able to do a lot of this stuff and what are your struggles because of your visual impairment doing this stuff?
Okay. Um, I have a visual impairment called coloboma, which
Mm.
is where one or more parts of the eye don't form all of the way. And usually it comes in the iris and a bit in the retina. So um, physically, when your eyes develop, the way I've had it explained before, and if I'm wrong, someone please let me know. But your eyes basically form an overall, like form sort of in a circle, and then they stop at a certain point, and nutrients comes up into, this is all in your utero, is like nutrients and everything comes in to fill them, and then they seal. Well, coloboma, parts of my eye, my iris, and a bit of my retina didn't seal, so my iris looks more like a keyhole than a sealed circle. And
Oh.
so, mhm. It's kind of hard to see with my eyes because my eyes are super dark brown. But I've seen pictures of other people with coloboma with a lighter colored eyes, where like you can see it a lot more distinctly. Um, and so the way, like, much like any kind of visual condition, it's my coloboma is unique. So just like anybody else's condition is like unique to them, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's at their own
Mm-hmm.
pace,
Right.
and then they interact with it differently and they see differently. So I see fairly clearly, about 20 over 200 in my right eye and a bit less in my left eye with the
Okay.
correction of my glasses. And so I
Okay.
see fairly clearly, but the acuity is just enough that I'm considered legally blind. And the way
Okay.
that affects me is that I bring my face close to read print.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I and like that's just the way that, like, that's just what, like, labels me legally blind. And I was like talking to a client about this last week. It's like there are other factors of visual impairment not accounted for in legal blindness that can have a more significant impact on your vision. So the two that really come to mind for me, that my eyes do. One is because my retina's not. I'm sorry, my iris isn't completely sealed. My eyes let in a little too much light, so
Mm-hmm.
that's slight light sensitivity. And
Mm-hmm.
where like I'm most comfortable wearing a baseball cap when I go outside, which is
Mm-hmm.
something I started doing more as an adult. I wasn't so worried about it as a kid. But
Mm-hmm.
I also see, like, looking at my computer screen right now, part of my computer screen is sort of like appearing just a little bit above it, and it's almost like I'm
Oh.
showing like a little after image of it. It's like it's got a it has a specific name where you kind of see images or streaks of light coming across, and that's my eyes letting in too much light. And then I also have
Okay.
a fairly I don't know about popular one, but one that is I've heard a lot of other people experience too, is nystagmus, where you have
Mm-hmm.
involuntary movement of the eye muscle. And the way that works, especially when my
Yes.
eyes are tired, is like my nystagmus works when it's like my eyes just like start moving, whereas like it's an effort for me to
Yes.
keep my eyes still. Looking forward is when my nystagmus interacts, like acts up the most. If I look to the side or down or up, then my eyes get to like a null point,
Yes.
and then I think that's like they'll hold still, but then my face is at a weird angle.
I see some good some distortions and stuff there. I know
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have a similar condition. So I have Stargardt's disease, but one thing
Mm-hmm.
that I relate to you on the lights that you were talking about. I have light sensitivity as well, but I also there is a syndrome that I don't hear a lot of people talk about, and I'm so curious if anyone else has heard of this. And it's called the Charles-Bonnet syndrome. And
Oh.
Charles-Bonnet syndrome is
Mm-hmm.
where you have kind of like they call them sort of like visual hallucinations kind of thing, but it's
Mm-hmm.
basically flashing of lights or some kind of like weird formation. Some people say that like when they look at something bright or they're watching a movie and they close their eyes and they can see, some of the bright residual lights on the back of their eye kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, it's sort of that, but times 10. and
Oh, okay.
and so it's like these bright, almost neon lights that
Oh, wow.
that will show up in my visual field, and they'll kind of like move around, and it goes away after about a minute or so. But they are kind of like visual hallucinations, and it's just kind of where the
Mm-hmm.
cells in the back of the eye are kind of going wonky, haywire, and
Mm-hmm.
sending weird signals to the brain, basically. But it's called the Charles-Bonnet syndrome, and so
Charles-Bonnet syndrome. Okay.
It's something that I don't hear a lot of people talk about. So I'm really curious, guys, if anyone's watching this on the replay or in the live chat, have you heard of Charles-Bonnet syndrome? Because I think I'm going to maybe do a video on that in the future. All right, I want to see who's in the chat, what's going on in the chat. I know I've seen a lot of people kind of talking. Let's see. So I'm going to turn my voiceover. I am a voiceover user for those who did not know. So you will hear my voiceover on real quick. 10:09 p.m. Blind toes. My favorite hobby is now learning to spin my nunchucks and doing tricks with them. Yes. Okay, y'all. So Blind Toes has this awesome video. It was like, gosh, you did this like what, 6, 8 months ago. It was a long time ago. He did this nunchucks video and it demonstrates how he does it as a blind dude. Oh my God, y'all, check that video out. Blind Toes, you need to like feature that, like post that as like your featured video on your channel because that's like one of my favorite ones. He is awesome.
It reminds me of that part from the 1990s live Ninja Turtles where Michelangelo and one of the foot ninjas face
Yeah.
off and they have my nunchuck spinning contest.
Man, if that's not a great example of outside of the box hobbies, and then right under that, Paul's blind suit for the soul. He says he plays the native. What was it? Let me listen to it again. 10:10 p.m. Paul's blind suit for the soul. My hobby is the Native American flute. I play it because I feel spiritual. Awesome, the
What?
Native American flute. Oh my gosh, that is such a beautiful instrument. I am a musician. My bachelor's degree is in music, music therapy, and I've done and read a lot of research regarding the native flute and beautiful instrument, Paul. I did not know that about you. Very, very interesting. Okay. 10:11 p.m. Ray 4AJR. Hello, Cindy. You probably guess who I am. Ray! Hey, Ray, are you barefoot? Okay. So for those who I have a wonderful subscriber, Ray. He loves to go barefoot. We talk about this often. And let me tell you, there are lots of hobbies that are actually really good barefoot. I mean, like,
Hmm.
so Paul, so Corey, do you you live on the West Coast, right? So
Yep.
do you do like a lot of water sports? And do you help teach a lot of blind, visually impaired people doing water sports?
I have done a few water sports. I was in competitive swimming in junior high and high school, and I kept
Okay.
swimming as an exercise. Went to the beach fairly often as a kid, and tried to go a
Yeah.
bit as an adult. The only thing I really teach other blind, visually impaired people to do with water sports is kayaking.
Okay.
But also when I was doing a what is it, a masters swim team, which is swimming for people over like 19 and over.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a community center. There was another gentleman there who was blind, and he just got in and swam, and his son was there too, and he's a really cool guy. And so it's just I didn't like teach him to do anything. Like he was kind of established when I went there. I was just really surprised. I thought I'd be the only one with any kind of legal
Yeah.
blindness there, but he was right there.
I want to I want to put a pin in that because I want to come back to that point. You brought up something that is very important and what I want to transition to next. But there's a few other comments here that I want to recognize real quick.
10:15 p.m. Blind
Let's
toes.
see.
Then give the stream guys a toes up or two. Action 10:12 p.m. Blind toes. We are not going to do a spicy challenge. Don't worry, it's just a bump.
Okay, so we're not doing a spicy challenge. Good.
10:11
Okay.
p.m. Blind toes. We are just going to eat Cindy. 10:20 p.m. Paul's blind soup for the soul. My redness specialist told me that is retina shifting and moving, creating those lights.
Oh, the retina shifting. Okay, that's interesting, Paul. I've
10:21
never
p.m.
heard that.
Ray 4AJR. My new hobby is converting old home movies on VHS tape to digital. Still figuring it out, but I'm using an Elgato to do it.
Oh, cool. A new hobby someone says is switching old VHS tapes to digital.
10:21 p.m. Ray 4AJR. My new hobby
Right.
is converting old home movies on VHS tape
Yeah.
to digital. Still figuring it out, but I'm using an Elgato to do it.
Okay.
Actions available.
So Ray says, so he's transferring VHS tapes onto in digital form. That's
Page 2 of 2.
sounds very tricky to me.
10:23 p.m. Robin Palmerston. Hi, Corey. Miss Robin. Here. Actions available.
Hi, Miss
Someone's
Robin.
saying hi to you, Corey. Hi, welcome.
10:23 p.m.
Let me
Ray
see.
4AJR. Of course I'm barefoot. Are you? I think so.
Ray, yes, sir, I am. I am
Yeah,
currently
me too,
barefoot.
actually.
Yeah, see, right.
Mm.
So a lot of blind and visually impaired people, some people really love to be barefoot and some people don't. So,
Mhm.
but so real quick for those who may be new, I don't think I introduced myself. My name is Cindy, guys. So welcome to the channel if you are new. And don't forget, guys, make sure your notifications are turned on so you can catch future live streams and videos on the channel and just kind of help support. Um, Now, what I was wanting to mention, some of my favorite hobbies, I am a blind runner, a knitter, and I'm also a musician. Hold on just a second. My cat, I am also a pet owner, which I don't know if you can call that a hobby, but he is sure needy and time consuming. So, hey, I'll count it.
Awesome.
But I wanted to mention because I did not get into running until I was well beyond 20 over 400. I'm currently
Mhm.
about 20 over 2400 now, so much worse. Um, Here, you want to say hi, Midnight? Say hi, everybody.
Hi, Midnight.
So, I became a blind runner, and I've had so many people ask me, how do you run blind?
Mhm.
Now, at this point, I was not a white cane user, but in many of the half marathons I participated in, did I trip over some curbs and trash cans and flags and the water
Mhm.
stations? Yes, I was that
Mhm.
person, but I still did it. And I think that is
Yes.
something that we should all strive to do at the end of the day, just to say, you know what, I don't care if I fall down. The
Mhm.
important part is getting back up and
Oh,
saying
absolutely.
you did it. And so
Absolutely.
swimming is one of those sports too. I think running and swimming, because so
Mhm.
many of us in the community are like, we've all been told. I was told throughout my childhood, I want to play volleyball. No,
Mhm.
Cindy, you can't play volleyball because you can't see the
Mhm.
ball coming towards your
Mhm.
face. People want to play softball, basketball, all the ball sports, all the,
Mhm.
and if you live in a large enough city where there is a large enough blind community, you have those blind sports. There's global,
Mhm.
there's lots of other different sports that are
Mhm.
specifically designed for the visually impaired. And so definitely Google that if that's something you're interested in and think could be in your local area. For me, it was not. I did not
Mhm.
have any options like that. So I discovered, you know what? Running, swimming, water sports. I'm a huge water rat myself.
Nice.
I loved those things. I excelled at those things in my own at my own personal pace.
Mhm.
Um, but I excelled because I was competing against myself and no one else.
Mm,
I didn't have to meet anyone else's standard. And I think that really helps people to understand that, it doesn't matter how well you can see or not see. The point of you being getting into that recreational hobby is to just do your personal best.
hmm.
And at the end of the day, I got so just I became so proud of myself.
Awesome.
um, yeah, as a runner. And then I got into knitting because I don't know, maybe it was my ADD. I like to fidget with my fingers. Y'all are lucky you don't get to like see the whole body because my hands go 100 miles a minute. Um, but I love to knit as well. And that's something that I've had people ask me on my channel, like, hey, show me how you knit blind. And so I might dip into that in the future. But I would love to kind of hear, Corey, what are your thoughts as far as, recreational ideas and hobbies that people can get into that, they don't have that peer pressure of meeting a standard, and competing against people that may not have a disability, but more that's just
Hmm.
where they can excel at their own personal best.
Hmm. Well, anything like you said, anything to do with personal fitness, whether it's finding like a pool and getting a coach or becoming a part of a group and swimming, running,
Mm,
there's like personal fitness as like weightlifting
that's a good one.
or yeah, or high intensity training like the like hit or what's it called? It's the stuff similar to CrossFit, or just like it's like the high intensity training is like half an hour of like a bunch of different exercises going through different cycles of it.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Oh, and it's
Mm-hmm.
it's I know, but it can't. It.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's a lot. Like you're jumping right from like not sure if you want to move to like that kind of thing. That's a lot. Honestly, like really anything that just it could be competitive or could be non-competitive that
Mhm.
you want to do. There like if you like to do something, there's ways to do it, and it might even take like less workarounds than you might think.
Mhm.
I mean, I heard of a blind drag racer, right? He like races cars for
What?
right. So I mean that right there just shows you like what you can do. And there's a guy named Eric Weinmeyer who is a blind mountain climber and does all these other kind of extreme
Oh,
sports like
wow. Yeah.
kayak the Grand Canyon blind, and there's a lot
I
like
have heard
a lot of
rock
different things.
climbing is
Hmm.
another, yeah, good one because you don't necessarily have to see
Hmm.
where the next hand grip is. You can
Hmm.
easily feel for it as long, and as long as
Yeah,
you're trained and professionally,
yeah,
experienced enough to be safe. I mean, that's another, I think, great outdoor recreational thing that
or
any blind VIP could excel at.
definitely the real trick with blindness. I think the one feature of sports that's tricky with visual impairment, tricky but not impossible, is anything to do with a ball flying through the air that
Mm-hmm.
goes at it requires a lot of hand to eye coordination. Things
Right.
that like you don't have things flying at your face, or you don't have to like throw them anywhere. You're generally okay. And for a lot of those, like you've got goal ball, like you mentioned, sport
Mm-hmm.
made specifically for people who are blind, visually impaired.
Mm-hmm.
Beep baseball. Like they've got like bright soccer balls that have beeps. They have beeps in them. They have
Yep.
basketballs that have beeps in them that you can get like and attach something to the hoop so you know where to shoot it. And I mean, you could just
Yeah.
get in and do it too. Like I, growing up and like in my early 20s, I played tackle football with friends, like not
Mm-hmm.
all padded up, just like on the grass. And I didn't do much, like catching of the ball, but I could run after people and cover and be an extra person on the line there, and just
Right.
really just go out there and have fun with friends. Like it didn't matter that I wasn't really competitive and no like about it. It was just something to do that had a good time. Also,
Yeah.
walking is a great one. Like going just for
Yeah.
walks, like urban walks, rural walks is a great
Mm.
one. and it kind of inadvertently sneaks in a bunch of kind of orientation and mobility kind of practice, because you're getting the mental
Right.
map of an area. You're practicing getting more comfortable if you use a cane or if you don't use a cane, and you're if you're doing any street crossing, scanning
Mm-hmm.
scanning for safety. There's all kinds of stuff of this outdoor stuff, like that I do, the kayaking and the cross country skiing and the like with the two things I guided, and the whitewater rafting, which I've done a little bit of. Um, like that's all that's all really good for people who are blind, visually impaired too. And if you want to be competitive with it, I mean, I know you can be competitive with kayaking and skiing, but
Mm-hmm.
what about whitewater rafting? But yeah, and but at the same time, competition isn't something the people who losing their eyesight should feel the need to shy away from either, because
Right.
competing with yourself is definitely good too, but you can definitely compete with other people. Like I heard of a blind cross country skier who, because he'd taken a little more effort to think about what he was doing and prepare himself, was like going right on ahead of a bunch of people who were um, sighted. And I met a lady once who was an Olympic archer, and she was blind, but she was Olympic archer in uh, archery that wasn't geared towards visual impairment. So yeah,
Yeah.
could be anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I think, if you just did a Google search, you could probably get so much
Mm-hmm.
inspiration. But again, the biggest fear, or the biggest, I think, hurdle for a lot of us is just getting over that fear and just
Mm-hmm.
going for it. Just try. And sometimes you never
Yeah.
know what's going to stick until you try. So,
And mm-hmm.
I mean, and I mean, honestly, guys, I really don't think it, it, whether you're visually impaired or not, I think that is just a human fact.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if you're how able-bodied you are. I think
Uh-huh.
every human struggles with that, of just taking that initial commitment and just doing it. Step one is to just
Mm-hmm.
start, right? Just like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I wanted to do a YouTube channel for years, but I mean, I mean, you have to start by hitting record. I mean, so
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're never going to
Yeah.
know until you try. So
And here's
I'm going to
something
get
about
to I'm going to
there's
get to
just
the chat real quick, Corey. Let's
go
see
for it.
who's.
Blind toast. We are not going to do a spicy challenge. 10:20 p.m. Paul's blind soup for the soul. My red specialist told me that is the rest of
We got
10:21 p.m.
that.
Ray 4AJR. My new hobby is averting old home
We
movies.
got that.
10:23 p.m. Ray 4AJR. 10:23 p.m. Robin Palmerston. Page 3 of 3. 10:26 p.m. Ray 4AJR. The blind runner. Interesting. Try running barefoot. You might be surprised at how good it feels and how effective it is.
Really running, I know there's a lot of shoes, Ray, that um, they have that barefoot techno. It's like you're running barefoot, but they still have some kind of protection on there just so that you don't like get cut or anything like that. But it's still just like running barefoot. And I know a lot of runners that have those special shoes. And I have plantar fasciitis, so unfortunately I can't run barefoot. But if I could, you bet I would give it a try.
10:27 p.m. Ray 4AJR. By the way, you sound a lot less nasal than you did before. Sounds like you're getting better. Actions available.
Ray, you notice I had a cold and I never said anything to anybody I did my last video and I was on so much allergy medicine trying to get over this cold. I can't believe I think that is if there's ever a superpower for the blind and visually impaired, it is how in tuned we are with our hearing to
Mm-hmm.
pick up and notice. Like I'm the same way, Ray. I can totally tell when someone has had drainage, they're congested. I can hear it in their voice and um, how the sound is moving through their throat and through their nose and nasal pass. I can hear that too, Ray. And I props to you, dude, for picking that up lately. That I have been sick. Okay,
10:31 p.m. Blind toast. Don't forget powerlifting.
Oh
powerlifting.
yes.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, good
Definitely.
one.
p.m. Blind toast. Don't forget powerlifting.
Okay, so I think we're up to date, but yeah, powerlifting. So I mean, that's just I think some of the more like athletic, outdoorsy ideas. I want to
Mm-hmm.
try to switch gears and try to take it down a notch to maybe those who are maybe just new to their sight loss journey. That is, something that they never quite did when they were sighted, and so probably not anything they're really going to jump into,
Mm.
especially when when they are losing sight. So let's discuss what are some of the more indoor, maybe some more low key recreational things inside, or just kind of something to kind of maybe a smaller baby step. Is there anything, Corey, that you like to do indoors?
Oh, wow. Lots to do. Lots I like to do indoors as well. Reading is a big one. I found that
Mm,
a lot of people who are blind, visually impaired, very avid readers, as well as
yes.
being
Or
avid musicians. And
listeners in our
yeah,
case. Yes.
mm-hmm. And music and like music lovers
Mm-hmm.
and musicians too. So yeah,
Right.
like that. So I played a bit of drums in high school and college, and so drumming is awesome. I do a lot of reading and creative writing, just something I've loved to do since I was a
Yeah.
kid. And um, let's see, indoor. I do tabletop role playing games with my friends over. It was Skype, now it's over Discord. So it's like instead of being all around a table rolling dice, we're on our computers and we have like dice rolling like
Nice.
functions there. We roll that, and we have our character sheets in digital format so that we can read them with screen readers or magnification, whatever we want to use. And
Uh-huh.
so we do that, and that's good social fun. Or just finding common conversation, just hanging out with people, finding common conversations that
Yeah.
or topics of discussion that people like to like talk about it. Maybe there's a group that meets once a week, once a month to talk about different things that you're interested in. So yeah, that a bit of TV.
Mm-hmm. Do you use
Uh,
audio description at all as a,
I do, yeah, with
yeah? Awesome. Me too.
yeah, groovy. It's use it when I go to theaters now, and it's kind of funny. It's like
Yep.
my every time I go with my mom now that she knows that audio description is a thing, she like double checks like, oh, can you get those special headphones that like the audio description is like I'll try, yeah. And which is really cool. So that like there's
Yeah.
that kind of good support.
Yes.
And I found a my friends told me about a site where you get like the audio tracks of movies with the
Yeah.
audio description laid over it, and
Sometimes
that's really
those are like
interesting.
so frustrating because you have to sync
Mm.
them up
Yeah.
kind of just so. And that's one that I,
Hmm.
I don't know. I would just prefer that the media platforms do the right thing and include,
Mm.
if they're going to have closed captioning, they need to offer. It's something I feel so passionate about. Maybe it's just like
Hmm.
the activist coming out in me, but I'm like, if we've had closed captioning for years and it took the
Hmm.
hearing impaired population to go through a series of lawsuits as
Hmm.
well to before people did the right thing. I
Hmm.
feel like I guess the blind and visually impaired community is going to have to do the same thing to get them
We might.
to automatically, like, no, do not offer or stream anything on your platform without including a audio track. It is not
Hmm.
that complicated to include an audio track of
And
audio
that's the thing.
description.
It's not like it shouldn't take so much like a lawsuit fuss in order to get to get
I
audio
know.
description, because it's really not that hard to
I
make,
know.
and
It's
and
it's
it's so
yeah,
appreciated, and there's got so many people out there
right.
who would do like, yeah, sure,
Millions.
I'll do it. Hmm.
Yes, millions. And so,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think that is those are some awesome points that you touched on. Reading is huge. So
Hmm.
I personally do have an Audible subscription. That's where I do a
Same.
lot. That's where I get a
Hmm.
lot of my audiobook content. But there's Bard, there's book sharing, there's
Hmm.
tons of platforms out there, guys. So please definitely get into that. Podcasts. Another
Hmm.
huge platform for those who
Oh
are blind and
yeah.
visually impaired. Definitely a great way to connect again with your community. And of course, ta-da, YouTube. Blind
Yeah,
people are
YouTube.
on YouTube.
Yes,
And
it's
so,
awesome.
yeah, and I'm like, you know what? Can I see the screen right now? No, I cannot. But does it matter? No, because it's like it doesn't matter because some of us, it doesn't really matter where you are on the blindness spectrum because it is a spectrum. And
Hmm.
some of us like for example, those with who have tunnel vision, they're kind of losing their peripheral vision in. It happens a lot with retinitis pigmentosa and such.
Hmm.
They still have some of that central detail and can enjoy some of the imagery, and
Oh
people
yeah.
still like to have maybe something to kind of utilize what little visual function they have left. And
Oh
so
yeah.
I mean, YouTube is a wonderful source for conversation, for connecting with the community, guys. That's why I really appreciate everyone watching tonight and making sure that, hey, turn those notifications on so y'all can catch the next one.
Hmm.
Um, but we've got still, several people here in the chat with us. And so I mentioned I am a knitter and I also listen to movies and shows with audio description. I
Nice.
just recently put out this video because so I've always been so frustrated with HBO, and the only times I
Hmm.
ever got an HBO subscription was during like the Game of Thrones season, and we would wait till
Hmm.
it would get like halfway through, and then we're like, okay, let's get that subscription. Like we'll like create some like new email account so we can try to get like a free trial, and then we'll like binge watch, before the free trial is done. And that was my HBO experience because I'm like, why
Nice.
do I want to pay a premium for a platform that's not going to offer audio description and
Hmm.
support my community? Well, finally, thanks to a lawsuit, they now have some audio description, and over
Hmm.
by the next year, they're supposed to double the amount of hours. I think currently they have 1,500 hours or so of content that contains audio description. But if you try to access it from, like, say, a smart TV, so like if you have an Amazon Fire Cube, Fire Stick, anything like that, and you go to the HBO show, HBO Max, whatever the app is called, you can't access it through the TV. You can
Hmm.
only access the audio description tracks through a phone or computer,
Hmm.
which is tricky. HBO
Yeah.
tricky, 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 tricky. Shame on you.
Mm.
I mean, it is not that difficult to like go ahead, add that track to across all the platforms, across all the apps, and make it consistent, make it universal.
Mhm.
I don't know why that is so difficult and why they don't see the importance for that. But um, I will give them props that they're the last platform to jump on that bandwagon, and I want to give them props for at least like
Mhm.
starting to do the right thing, and hopefully they will continue to do so. So
Here, here.
10:42 p.m.
let's see
Session
what
mods.
else.
Blind My Smart An. Ellipsis. Saris. SP which allows you. 10:42 p.m. Session mods. Blind My Smart An.
Hey,
Ellipsis. Saris. SP which allows you to watch audio described movies via MP3. Actions
oh,
available.
I'll have to check that out. Welcome, Jesha Mods. They are an awesome, really cool channel, guys. They started around the same, you all started around the same time I did. So welcome. Go check Jesha Mods out. They are an awesome, sweet, cute couple. You guys are so
Oh, they're
sweet.
great.
Yeah,
I've
are you
gotten the
familiar with them too, Corey?
yeah, I've had the pleasure of meeting them both in person. So yeah,
Oh,
they're great.
awesome.
Yeah.
Are you
Mhm.
guys all on the West Coast?
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay.
Mhm.
Let's see. Okay. Let's
10:40
see.
p.m. Blind toes. I have a level 5 bard. Actions available.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Corey. 3 exclamation marks. Good. 10:31 p.m. Blind toes. Don't forget powerlifting.
Okay.
Actions available. Page 3 of 3.
Okay. I
10:42
think we're
p.m.
up to
Session
date.
mods. Blind My Smart An.
So
Ellipsis.
yeah,
Saris.
hey, what's
SP which
up,
allows you to
Josh
watch audio
Mods?
described movies via
Okay.
MP3.
Um,
Actions available.
it's funny because
Hey, Josh. Hey, Maddie.
I was about to say, so
Mm,
my screen reader,
mm,
because my screen reader calls them Jesha Mods, that's the way I always want to say, but her name is Madison, I think. So I don't
mm,
know why is like
mm.
Jeshua and Mads. I don't know,
You
but
Jesh
screen,
and Mads. Yeah, like
yeah,
each going for
but
uh
but
like
because
a
the
single
screen reader
syllable.
doesn't read it that way, in
Mhm.
my head, it's like I always just say it the way my screen reader reads it.
Mhm.
And I know that's not the right way, but it's like I don't know. I'm tired. So y'all, and I was briefly on Carrie's channel a second ago. Carrie from Live Accessible was doing a live stream right before me. Very interesting. If anybody wants to catch the replay, it was a very fascinating discussion on white cane use. And I told Blind Toes that I was going to have a beer tonight, so I'm going to crack open a beer, y'all. And if anybody wants to grab a drink or snack with me, Here we go. Cheers. Let's do it.
Nice.
Um, it's been one of those weekends, y'all. I have a 3 and a 5-year-old, and I had a hard time potty training my 5-year-old, and I'm currently potty training my son, who's 3, and it ain't going well. So,
Oh
hence the
no.
beer.
Gotcha.
hmm
You
Okay.
certainly earned that. It's tough stuff.
Okay. So let's see. I'm gonna. Okay, so we still got 7 people hanging with us. So let's see. I want to kind of dive in a little bit deeper with some of the frustrations that people have when they are visually impaired and they're like, you know what, I want to do something, but I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what to do, and I don't know what other blind VIPs do. And
Mm-hmm.
so we've mentioned audiobooks, we've mentioned, TV, podcasts, YouTube. Uh, Another thing that I think is a great resource, guys, is checking out Facebook because there's actually a lot of really awesome, great Facebook groups for the blind
Oh
and
yeah.
visually impaired. There's, blind and visually impaired support group. There's blind and visually impaired support people. There's making
Mm-hmm.
connections. I mean, there's like 50
Yeah.
different ones, and some have like 10K and some have like 100. And
Mm-hmm.
but those are great groups to really get involved in, make those connections, discover who lives in your area, that kind of thing, because building up a community, whether it's social media or in your local area, that's kind of step number one as far as I think your journey of sight loss goes, is having that
Mm-hmm.
support system. But
Yeah.
when you build up that community, you'll discover that sometimes hobbies and sometimes interests will occur naturally. You'll start to
Mm-hmm.
get those kind of organic ideas and things that will come up in your communications and in your just reading different posts and exploring all the different platforms that we are all participating in. And you'll see like someone's, oh, I just had my first personal trainer powerlifting class,
Mm-hmm.
or I just checked out YouTube and here's an awesome video that you can really zoom in with low vision and learn how to knit. Or
Mm-hmm.
there's I am a musician, so I play guitar and I'm a singer. And
Nice.
so there's so many really cool tutorials that you do not need any vision at all, zero, to
Mm-hmm.
watch these YouTube videos, pick up a guitar, which you could probably Uber to like doo-wop shop, something like that. I don't know if those are all over, but like whatever guitar or
Yeah. Music store.
instrument
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
rental music store. You don't even need to buy it, guys. If
Mm-hmm.
Because just the point is to just try. Go there, rent a guitar for like, I don't know, $7 for a week or two. Try that out. I mean, sometimes it's just getting out there and exploring and just just taking a bite out of the world,
Yeah.
and sometimes finding that inspiration and that organic idea that lights your spark can come from your community connections, again, whether it's on social media or in your local area. So that's what I'm hoping this channel can do for whether you're a parent or whether you're new on your sight loss journey. That's my goal for this channel. So hopefully, if anyone has any ideas, go ahead, put them in the live chat, or if you're watching it on the replay, guys, comment down below. Tell us what your hobbies are. What are your suggestions for someone new to sight loss that you don't that's not too overwhelming right out of the gate, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your gold nugget advice there? So I'm really curious. Corey, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, my number one tip for people new to sight loss is the same as your number one, or what sounds like your number one tip is find a community of people who are also blind, but all have something else in common with you too, or just
Mm-hmm.
be around people, and because blindness, like um, a lot of the trouble we sometimes get with it is from other people, and that trouble is because we're not fitting into this idea of normal, And like you said, blindness is a spectrum, but people understand it as a binary of you can see,
Yes.
you're either sighted or you're blind, and then it takes a little bit more to understand like that there's like variations of blindness, variations of vision. I mean, people can be not legally blind and have all kinds of things. It can have something going on with their eyes, or be legally blind and have some functions, some functional vision, their vision functions in some ways, but not others.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're around other blind people, and it's not just enough to like be, oh yeah, other blind people, it's other blind people who also share your interests and have other things in common. Like age is a great one, especially if we've got any people in the live chat or on your channel who check this out that are parents and they're like, my kid's visually impaired or is going blind, like what should I do? Like it's not enough to like connect them with like the first blind person you meet, though that first blind person might be awesome, so go for it. But it's also like people who are around their age, because
Mm.
that was a big connection for me, is connecting with
Yeah.
other blind kids around my age. And
Mm-hmm.
we didn't talk about our vision much. Even my group of friends who are blind now and I don't really talk about our blindness or visual impairment much in that sort of support group way. But that's always an option, and like there's an understanding there of when something is challenging or when we have an accomplishment to
Mm-hmm.
do with like blindness skills, then it can be like extra celebrated. And it's just like another, it's just another part aspect of our lives where we can connect and be
Yeah.
understood. It's like sharing our other interests with people, and like they don't, those other people don't have to be blind to also like share it, like just to get to share our
Yeah.
interests
I
with, or
mean,
to get a
I
similar
did
thing.
it. I was in a knitting group, and
Nice.
they were with they were in some of them were wheelchair users,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like there's beauty in including it in your community and support system, those with differing disabilities, because
Mm-hmm.
I love to share hacks, it tips,
Mm-hmm.
anything that can make blind life easier, right? But sometimes
Mm-hmm.
the tricks I learn and some of the gold nuggets that I have benefited from are from wheelchair users, or from,
Mm-hmm.
people that have some kind of physical disorder. So the anxiety issues that I used to have, I actually picked those up from people who had anxiety disorders.
Nice.
So I'm like, I feel like everyone, don't box yourself in and think that the only
Mm-hmm.
people that we can relate to are those who are blind visually impaired. Not
Mm-hmm.
true.
And that.
We can learn from everyone. So like getting in a local group that may not
Mm-hmm.
be blind or visually impaired, but just a disability,
Mm-hmm.
group, that is,
Yeah.
it sometimes is a beautiful thing in and of itself.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Or like just connecting, or like, connecting with coworkers. Like there's no reason why like you have some coworkers that you like, and they're
Mm-hmm.
going out for a beer. You can ask to join them, or if they offer, you say yes. And it's like, and if you're like, oh, everyone's driving there, it's like you look like that's where having a sort of multiple tools in your toolbox as far as blindness skills works. Because if you're able to take Uber or Lyft, or you're able to take the bus and you know where that place is, or look up where that place is, and it's only one bus ride to get there, or
Mm-hmm.
like you go walk up to like one coworker, or or the group, and like you know pull out a 10 and be like, hey, I could use a ride over there, does anybody mind? And give them, offer gas money, and
Yeah,
or
exactly.
just and it's so funny to me how often I'll offer a thing like that, like when I go on my ski trips, right? Or I go, or I have to
Uh-huh.
get, or carpool with people to go kayaking somewhere. And so often I always have money on hand to offer gas money, or I offer like I'll buy lunch, or I'll buy
Mm.
coffee, something.
Yeah.
And they usually like, no, I'm going this way anyway. No, it's no problem at all, no trouble. Like, okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So it's like really like people uh, do not mind helping, and it's funny because like my vision has been stable since I grew up. So the idea of losing vision is not something that I can is I can I can relate to it, and I can empathize with it to a point, but that hasn't been the same as
Mm.
my experience. But as I was thinking about my top tricks for people new to vision loss, I remembered and I realized that as I've grown up and become an adult and had to do more for myself, I've my blindness has sort of been a bit more emphasized, or I've had to know more. I've had to be better with blind skills to do it, like walking around more on my own, or walking like when I might be somewhere like at school, or at, like going out to dinner or at work and it's nighttime and it's
Mm-hmm.
been necessary for me to have a cane, or just crossing busy streets has been more necessary for me to have a cane, or take someone's arm, or like know how to use like my smartphone to get places and do things. And so like in that way I can relate, and in that way like when I started using a cane, something I had to really adjust to. All of a sudden, people were coming over like, "Sweetie, do you need help? Do you need help somewhere? Do you?" Oh, my
Yes.
favorite one is at school. Do you know where you are? I'm like,
Oh my
well,
gosh, yeah.
I'm like room 333. It's like, yeah, yeah, you're like you're three. Or like, okay, it was so funny. There's a guy in college when I transferred to university. It was the first week I went there the first day. The teacher's office right across from where my classroom was, and he stopped and asked me if I knew where, or if I needed help or knew where I was, and I said no and yes, thank you. And then the second day he asked the same thing, and the third day I saw him stop and look at me and fight back the impulse to do it, and then just went and go to his office. Now, like, I kind of laugh at that. I don't mean to entirely laugh at the guy's expense, because that's super helpful. Because what if I didn't, right? Like, what if I was
Right.
totally lost my first day at
Yeah.
college, and I'm like wandering around in a like school like that? I mean, that can feel frantic for anybody. And it was like, so, it's okay. And it's like, it does not diminish your independence or your sense of person to get help. And I think learning how to do things on your own really helps that. Like, oddly enough, like when I know there's ways that I can read a menu at a restaurant, I'm actually more willing, if someone offers, hey, Corey, do you want me to read you the menu? Like, you know what? That would be great. Sure. Because I know I can do it on my own, but it's easier for them to do it and they're already offering. Um, and
Yeah.
yeah, and it's, or like getting rides places, like, yeah, do you need a ride someplace? Like, oh, I appreciate it, thank you. Or like, I had
Yeah.
so funny, I went to a blindness training center when I was 18, like for a year. I was there from 18 to 19, lived in an apartment, like got like our teachers came into our apartments and worked with us, or we went to their offices, or went out, or in case of orientation and mobility,
Mm-hmm.
we went out there and met with them. And so I came back, and I'm hanging out with the same group of friends, and my one buddy finally got a driver's license, and his mom let him use his car. And he's like, Corey, you're the only blind friend I have, and you're the only person, and you're the only one who doesn't ask me for rides places.
Yeah.
It's because, and like knowing that like if he offered me like, hey, I'll take you home, is like a different thing of like, it for him it's a different offer than, oh, I have to take Corey
Yeah.
home because if I can't, he can't get home. It's like, hey, Corey, do you want to ride home? When he knows I can take the bus and go, and it's like gonna take my trip down from like an hour and a half to 20 minutes. I
Right.
appreciate that. So then,
Yeah.
yeah,
And we all
that's
do.
mhm, mhm.
Paul, Paul's Blind Suit for the Soul, he has a beautiful statement on here that I am going to read out to you all real quick. So it says, Cindy, I truly believe that people with disabilities are the strongest people on the planet. And, I think that we all definitely have our individual unique strengths, but it's one of those things where I believe we all just got to do what we got to do.
Mhm,
And finding hobbies and finding connections, finding our support systems, our communities,
mhm.
you got to do what you have to do. And pulling yourselves up out of depression, pulling yourself up out of the fear and the anxiety
The
of how am
isolation,
I going,
yeah.
yes, and isolation, yes. Um,
Mhm,
just trying to figure out how in the world am I going to adapt and learn how to live and, with blindness, blah, blah, yes, I think it definitely creates a hardened shell inside and gives us that we have to find that metal within us
mhm,
to really overcome. And eventually, I always try to encourage everybody to, it's if you are depressed, if you are sad, if
mhm,
you are just having a day where you are beat down,
mhm,
natural. It's normal. And it is something that I think everyone with disabilities can relate to. We all have those days where, you're done. I am
Mhm.
so like I am so done looking at my husband do a task in 5 seconds that takes me an hour. I am so
Mhm.
done looking at everyone get in their car, run to the store real quick for some milk, and I have to wait 2 days for some Amazon shipment or something like that.
Mhm.
Like and it's like all of it piles on, and we just got to throw in the white towel, and that is normal. And there's times
Mhm.
when I'm like, you know what? I need 5 minutes to acknowledge this feeling, and some days
Yes.
I need a full 24 hours. But
Mhm.
the point is that allow yourself to feel that because it's okay and it's normal and it's
Yes.
natural. But the key is to give yourself that place and space, but then say, okay, I have honored that. I've acknowledged those
Mhm.
feelings. Now, what am I going to do about it? What am I going to
Yes.
do to change it? Do I need outside help? Do I need
Mhm.
to call on my community? Do I need to just pick myself up and push myself out of my comfort zone? Like the next, you got eventually you have to take the next step. And I
Mhm.
think that it does take a bit of strength. It does take us to
Mhm.
take the ability to dig down deep to find
Mhm.
that, and eventually, I think everyone will discover that the desire becomes bigger than the anxiety, then the fear, then the depression.
Yes.
Eventually, you will want your life back. You will
Mhm.
crave those, to let go of your isolation. You will start to like, you know what? I don't care what the label is anymore, or if people see me with my
Mhm.
white cane, because that was something I really struggled with, was
Mhm.
the label of being blind and people seeing
Mhm.
my white cane. And and now I'm just like, you know what, my desire is bigger than that white
Mhm.
cane. I want to live the best blind life now, and so I'm whipping my cane out. I may
Yeah.
not have it completely but you know what? It may not be
Mhm.
completely unfolded because I don't need it, all 24 hours of the day.
Yeah.
There are times when I do, so I always have it
Mhm.
with me. But I still will whip it out
Same.
in the store,
Hmm.
fold it up, just so that everyone
Hmm.
knows, just so that if I need to beat someone with it, no, I'm kidding. Um,
Yes. Ankle
like
boots.
yeah,
Mhm.
I have it available, and I am not afraid of it anymore because my independence now is bigger than those fears, is bigger than those
Yes.
insecurities. And so that's what I want to leave with everyone this evening. And
Mhm.
I'm curious. I want to check into the chat one last time. And so, guys, post your Go Nugget tips right now. Corey, think about yours. And I'm going to check in here and see what everybody's saying before
Voiceover on. YouTube.
we
Video player.
check
Landscape.
out.
Home button to the right.
Let's see
10:54
what
p.m.
y'all are
10:54
saying.
p.m. Robin Palmerston. Differing. Ability slightly smiling face. Actions of 10:56 p.m. Jesh and Mods. Fostering community is so
Yeah.
important. Love that we can all learn from each other. Actions of
Fostering
12:00.
Definitely.
community. Yes.
10:58 p.m. Paul's Blind Soup for the Soul. Cindy, I truly believe that people with disabilities are the strongest people on the planet.
Oh, yes. That's what I
Action.
read.
11:03 p.m. Jesh and Mods. I feel the struggle with that Amazon statement. Lol.
You feel this? I know, right? Like, the beauty. It's like Amazon's one of those catch 22s, right? Like it's
Mhm.
so awesome that you can almost get anything delivered to your door
Mhm.
in 48 hours. Like I will be Prime member for life, and I love my subscribe and save. But
Mhm.
let me tell you, y'all, it still does not replace the ability to get in a car and just go to a
Mhm.
store and get that thing you need like 5 minutes from now.
Mhm.
I totally feel ya. And I think
Mhm.
that's another important
It's
thing
4:40
that
p.m.
a
Blind
lot
Toast.
of
Upstairs in
people.
Chicago. I'll see you on Wednesday. It'll be fun eating and
Oh,
talking with you.
bye, Blind Toes. Thank you for joining
Bye.
us. But I think that that's one thing that a lot of people take for granted is we have to buy in bulk so much because we can't
Mhm.
drive. Like we got to stock up on everything. So yeah,
Mhm.
Amazon is like our biggest friend, but at the same time, it doesn't replace the car. All right,
No,
Corey.
and
So tell me, what are your? We're going to wrap it up. Tell me, what are your gold nugget? What is your, thoughts that you would like to wrap up the evening with?
okay. Well, real quick, I just wanted to say, acknowledge Robin Palmerston's
Yes.
comment of differing abilities, and yeah, we
Oh
definitely
yes.
all have, like, we all have differing abilities, and when disabilities like fit into that, it's like, well,
Mm.
I don't, like you were talking about earlier, it's like people who predominantly use their hearing, like, or can catch the differences of voices, like, whoa, you got like oh, you sound better, or or I remember talking with a client earlier this week, like, I kind of broke off and I'm like, you sound like you need some water. He's like, yeah, actually, I just like the way he's talking, a bit of coughing, but yeah, in
Yeah,
different.
you can hear it.
Yeah, so it definitely fits in, or just um like kind of I get some exercise in grocery shopping, because my way of doing it is, because I live in a highly concentrated urban area. I put a backpack on, literally walk to the store, uh, get one of those hand baskets, go through my grocery list and fill it until either the list is done, or the basket's too heavy to carry. Take, check out with it, spray, since it's COVID now, spray it all down with cleansing stuff, and then put it in my backpack, and then just schlep it home. And I've done that with
Yep.
like just carrying grocery bags in my backpack and like getting my groceries, and then
Yep.
getting on the bus. So yeah, Amazon and Instacart, all that are like just all good ways to go, and there's just different options. And the other thing too
Yeah.
is a real quick audio description. As you were talking about canes, I took my folded cane and sort of made an attempt to wave it in front of the camera. So I'll do that again right here. So I got my folded
There you
cane right.
go.
Yeah. Tip, not touching the desk, because it's the equivalent of your shoe. But
That's right.
but definitely the top thought I want to leave tonight with, after having shared, I just want to real quick reaffirm the find your community of people, like,
Mm.
and also like, for people new to sight loss, don't think that you're going to fall out of favor with the people who are sighted, or just other people who don't have disabilities or whatever. And it's like you have good friends; those people will stick, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and it's all like you'll just pick, as you pick up tips and tricks, or like, oh, what, like, is this a matter of, oh, hey, do you want me to meet you at the door when we're all going to meet up at the bar for drinks and like walk in with you to our table? Like, yes, please. I'm like, yeah, no problem. And then it's like, that's it. And then
Yeah.
yeah. But the last tip I'd like to leave with is in regards to those adjustments into the getting out there, into doing things differently, into specifically learning blind skills. Like if you start to learn to use a cane, if you get an Audible account and you start listening to accounts, or you start listening to books or Bard, or you start to use a screen reader or magnification on your computer, anything like that, it is going most likely, it did in my experience. At first it felt like unnecessary, and like you were saying, I had the same identity crisis with the cane too. And then
Yeah.
like using it, but like, am I blind enough to use this? As like
Oh
big one
yeah.
when people have stable vision who are still visually impaired. um but and like the answer is yes. If you're thinking about it, and you want to use it, the answer is yes, and you can use it as much or as little as you want. And
Mm.
so like, that might all feel hard at first. uh Push through that. Give it a chance to work through it. Like, find what works for you, and eventually, when
Mm.
using a cane, isn't when you're less self-conscious about it, taking out in enough public places, or you've gone out with friends, or gone to a family reunion, or Thanksgiving dinner or whatever, and you have your cane, and if people made comments or people didn't make comments, either way, you took it and they saw it, and you're good. And you're walking down the street, and you realize, all of us, when you get to that point of you're walking down the street and you're realizing, I'm comfortable. I can't see at all around me, and I'm completely comfortable, because I
Yeah.
know, like, I'm gonna catch something. Like, that's the point. Like, you want, like, know that you will get to that point, and
Yes.
I'll have different feelings about it. I have a friend who's completely blind all her life and never quite enjoyed using a cane, so she got a guide dog. Got really good at using a guide dog, and that worked.
Mm.
Um, you might learn to use Braille. Go for it. Never too late to learn.
That's
um
right.
yeah, screen reader, like, that synthetic voice might sound really, uh
Yeah.
might you're garbly, or hard or whatever, but then when your auditory process, when you've given you enough practice, you've given your auditory processing enough practice, where
Mm.
it feels better to listen than to like do whatever, like, crunching gymnastics is required for you to get your face close enough to that screen to see it.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
like reading in a natural position where you can change positions while reading, then It's like
Yeah.
then you're good to go when it becomes when it becomes habit. It'll like so really my big tip is, we're you just keep at it. Find what works for you. If it doesn't work right immediately the first time, like keep at it and
Yes.
and and just it'll like and my promise is whatever you find that works for you, when that determination, like you said, Cindy, when that determination pushes past that fear, that self-consciousness, it like it like you'll get out and there you've like the whole world has a place for you, and
Yes.
you'll fit right in anywhere you want to when you have what you want, when you're working, like when you're able to walk through the world, proud, and you've got the skills that you deem necessary. It'll all work out. And I had a last one too. Oh, fear about going out. Like so many of the things that we're like, when you sit in your own head and you get in your head, you're afraid of so many things. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you take that first step to immediately do something, it's got to be like 80%, 90% of them just go away
Exactly.
because they
Yeah.
narrow down to the things you actually need to focus on, and the actual fears you might have become questions like, okay, I'm doing a YouTube channel, and how am I going to know when my camera's on? Like specific
Right.
question for which you
Right.
find a specific answer, and then
Yeah, and you
like,
just move on
mhm,
from there. It's like
yeah,
I always tell everyone too, it's allow yourself a season of adapting. Allow, and
yes,
whether that season is 1 day, 1 week, six
hmm,
months, whatever, but know that
yeah,
adapting to anything, whether it is
hmm,
voiceover, whether it's braille, whether it's cane use, whether it's a guide dog,
hmm,
whether it's just ex- accepting, period,
hmm,
or cooking, whatever, however big or
yes,
small it is, there is always going to be a season of adapting. There's always going to be this time that you will have to allow your brain a chance to learn to process this information, to
hmm,
process these experiences differently, because our brains get hardwired, right? When
hmm,
we go through childhood, we go through
yeah,
a certain part of our lives functioning one way, and then all of a sudden, whether you've been like, I've been visually impaired for over 30 years. I mean,
hmm,
but my vision is significantly different now this
hmm,
year than it was 5 years ago. And so
right,
it's like your brain is always going to be used to it functioning one way, but you're going to have to adapt
hmm,
constantly throughout your life. That's the world of disability. And
hmm,
knowing that you are going to have to revisit that season time
hmm,
and time and time again, you'll
hmm,
become better at acknowledging that and allowing your and giving yourself that patience and grace through your journey of
hmm,
acceptance, to recognize when, okay, this is no longer working for me. I need to find a new
hmm,
way to adapt. Or, okay, I've reached that point. I
hmm,
now need to learn how to use white cane. That's where I'm at. I used to
hmm,
not be able to. I used to be fine without a white cane, but
yeah,
now I recognize, no, it's not safe anymore. I need to have this
hmm,
training. And so recognizing those moments, it takes time. And I think a lot of people
yeah,
lose patience with that in the very beginning. They think it happens overnight. They think acceptance comes overnight. It
hmm,
doesn't. There is a season of adapting. There is a season of all the different stages of
yeah,
acceptance, which is a total different video. So I'm going to
hmm.
drop it there, guys. You all, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I
Thank
so
you all so
appreciate
much.
you. Thank you,
Definitely.
Corey, for joining
Mm,
us and from the West Coast and
mm.
representing the Blind VIP. Corey's a wonderful subscriber, guys. So thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much.
much, Corey, for joining me on the channel. If there's any subscribers that would like to join me again in the future, hey, shoot me a message. I would
Mm,
love to have more representation of our community on the channel, because it is not just me and myself and I up on
mm,
this channel. That is, you know, there's we all need to learn from each other. That is what I always
mhm.
try to preach. And so
So
thank you all
true.
so much for
Thank you all
joining
so
us,
much.
and y'all have a blessed night.
Definitely. And thank you, Cindy, so much for having me on.
Yeah, good. All right, I will end the stream. Y'all hang in there. Let me see.